let's start with this very interesting car wash test. Are you folks aware of this car wash test, which broke top AI models? Like top models were not able to respond to this. Does anyone know what this is? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think it was about I can walk to the car wash. Should I go bar or should I walk there? So that recently got broken.
Yeah. So the prompt given to the AI systems was this: I want to wash my car. The car wash is 50 meters away. Should I walk or drive? And very interestingly, most models, even the latest models, were getting it wrong. Most models were just saying, just 50 meters, go and walk. And some were giving reasons like, it's good for your health and stuff like that. And very few, were maybe getting to the right answer, right? And in fact, this became quite popular. And there's actually a website that people call it a car wash test now, and there's a website which tries to quantify how are the top models performing on this scientific task. So this particular website has a link. I'll share it later. But about 130 models were tested, and as you can see, only 22% passed, and roughly 78% of models, including the top models, frontier models, right? All the names you have heard, most of them failed. And this is very interesting, right? I mean, I want to wash my car is 50 meters away. And we talk of these super intelligent systems, there's AGI and already displacing people's fear mongering and the apocalypse is here and so on. But somehow this is not able to answer this kind of question. The question, I might want to ask you is, do you know why? Like, why is this failing? Like, what is your suspicion? Like, why do you think the model does not get it? It's not like the objective is not clear, right? The objective that I want to wash my car is literally the first statement here. Why does this still not get it? See in the chat. You don't need the car to wash. Not feeling confident about AI solving world's problems. But yeah, doesn't differentiate between the car and the person, doesn't understand context, loss of context. Okay. Yeah, this link, I'll perhaps share this link with you. This is just interesting, fun. The car wash test, common sense. I'll share this in chat with you. You all take a look as well. It explains a lot of things, There's a lot of research here, different models. One of the ideas here is heuristic dominance, okay? Heuristic dominance means this one here. Models default to short distance equals walk without considering what needs to travel, right? So somewhere it's not like the objective is not clear. It's just that there's a heuristic thing, and that dominates. So despite the task sometimes being not so difficult to understand because they have mentioned, I need to wash the car, the models seem to fail. And this is not like a very obvious way of failure. You would have expected something else as a failure reason, that it doesn't understand the task, right? And so on. But the reason is something else. So essentially, models can fail in weird ways, right? And they're not too reliable. And what you need to understand is all of the systems you're talking about, right? All the AGI, all the agentic systems and so on are built on these models, right? Which can fail in weird ways. So when we build systems, we have to be really aware, cognizant of these things, yes? And have ways to still make the models work, right? So this was very, very interesting test, and it reveals a lot about models and how much we can trust these models, and that we really can't just hand over a process to a model without putting in real checks and guardrails and process definitions and so on. And that's one of the things which is one of the main topics of today. Because last time we met, we did make a system, we did make this automation. We also made a schedule where it automatically run, or the AI agent would do 10 steps and so on. But today we talk about making these systems behave reliably, doing exactly what we wanted to do efficiently without wasting a lot of time, tokens, and money, and also be able to inject domain expertise in this, right? This is what you want to do today. That's our goal today. And one of the important key ideas here is context management. The magical phrase here, context management. Literally everything is around context management. As we'll see in a moment, at any point in time, what is the task? What does the system need to know? What are the guardrails around that, right? How do you measure? This is everything. What context you supply to the LLM to define the next step. This is it, right? This is just remember this larger theme back of your mind. So yesterday, when we met, we built our own multi-step automated agentic workflow. Essentially, we had this invoice processing system, automated invoice processing system. We got to a point where we had all the things, the setup done. We just at some point we just say check again or check again, right? It did a series of many steps, right? Check the file, see if there's a new file, extracted it, and there's many steps. So it was a multi-step process. We could also schedule it and so on. Today, we want this agentic workflow to be super smart, to be much more reliable, right? And to do so, we will discuss a few ideas. We'll discuss skills, we'll discuss sub-agents, right? And also discuss testing of these agents, okay? So quite a lot of stuff to cover today. Yesterday itself, I got messages from folks saying that they've watched tons of YouTube videos, many hours of videos, and done these webinars and stuff. But this is the first time they could actually build something, right? And they're super happy about this. So I'm happy you folks found value. Today as well, let's try to do something tangible. And I'm sure what you'll do today, you should be able to, carry forward and apply into other projects as well. So we're trying to give you like real value here, right? So let's get started, which is why I would like you all to also just make sure to do things along with me as much as possible, right? Day one agenda was this. We talked about the evolution from syntax to intent, that now we don't need to know a lot of syntax to build something, right? We talk about setting up your project folder. We did that. We extracted data from an invoice PDF. We went step by step progressively. We saw how to create and update an HTML report. All of this was done by Claude Code, right? We used Claude MD. This was very important thing we did. We made a Claude MD file, which is essentially the briefing for Claude Code when it starts up, right? In this project, this gives it the context around the project, around some tasks in the project. And Claude Code is really the main context file for us. This is really the single file through which Claude Code knows exactly what to do. Okay, we are relying completely on this Claude MD file. And we build this automated system. We scheduled this with the help of this feature called routines in Claude Code. All of this was done yesterday. Today, we'll talk of the context again. We will review the agent we built in day one. We'll talk of skills. We'll create the skill for our own project. We'll talk of sub-agents, what they are and why we need them. So why and what. And then we'll create our own sub-agents. And we'll see how all of this works together. Skill, sub-agents, lot. So this is quite a lot, actually. And let's see how far we can get. But I'm fairly confident we should be able to do this, right? Does follow along requires? Yes, folks. We had all of this yesterday. We had some setup guides also shared. So maybe for this time you just follow along with us. If you already have a Claude Code subscription, then that's great. If not, maybe in the next 5 to 10 minutes, try to do it in the background so that you can catch up with us. Okay. Anyway, so this is what we do today, folks. Lot of content. Okay, about me, for those who are seeing me for the first time, my name is Rahim Baig, or Mirza Rahim Baig. I'm a founder myself of Baig Academy. I am a startup mentor at a startup accelerator, where I also talk to startups every week. I see what they're building, what's working, what's not working. So it also gives me a lot of perspective on how things are being developed, what people are building in the trenches. I've been listed among top 100 leaders. I'm a lecturer in AI at IU Berlin. I also teach courses. I have courses on Coursera and Maven. I also had the fortune of authoring 3 books and so on. So it really, 16 plus years of experience in building things in large companies like Zalando, Flipkart, and so on. So a lot of industry experience plus an educator and teacher at heart, right? That's about me. So you're in safe hands. And one of the things we shared with you yesterday was most of you are coming here from Maven platform. So you can take this link. You can look at Baig Academy on Maven. It's actually just as simple as maven.com/Baig-Academy. And you reach our page, where you see all the things we have, right? So if you go to Lightning Lessons, these are all the upcoming webinars. This was yesterday, Claude Code 101. This is today, 1.5 hours. And then we have these four of these sessions planned already, which is varied topics really. One is around picking between Claude Code and Cowork, when to use what, and doing some tasks in both and comparing. We have some other topics which are a bit more technical in nature, which is building agent systems, Google ADK, which is hands-on coding. We also have things around experimentation and generative AI era, which is relevant for product managers and product analytics and so on. We also have data analysis with Claude Code, which is relevant for everyone really these days who needs to work with data. So we have a lot of these things coming up, so you can take a look. Big Academy, even.com/Big Academy. Okay, so that's that. And going back, so it was about us. Now, day one recap in 2 minutes. I'll be really brief. Please open up Claude Code, all of you. I'll share my Claude Code screen as well. Okay, and here it is. Okay, session 1. Right. Small thing, those who were not present in session 1, so you can catch up. I'm going to share, wait a second. I'm going to share a zip file which contains the entire folder from the last session. So you can extract this somewhere in your system, and you should be able to just extract the folder, and then you can open that as your project folder in Claude, right? So I'm going to share this on chat so that those who missed yesterday can catch up as well without doing everything from scratch, right? So I've shared a zip file. Please download, please extract it, and then open up Claude Code and navigate to that directory as your working directory, right? Okay, coming back. So here's my Claude Code. Please, someone confirm. You can see Claude Code on my screen. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right, folks. So you can see Claude Code, and I think the best way is just to show you what's happening here, right? So prompts are all here. So the first thing we did was, okay, something is up with this display. Okay. Anyway, so the first thing we did was, okay, give me a second. Zoom stuff. Okay. So we went to Claude Code. We set up the working directory, right? We set up the working directory as this particular folder. We were calling it session 1. You could call it anything you want, but essentially some working directory, session 1. We gave access. We made Claude Code this as a working directory for Claude Code, right? And just to test it out, whether it has access to this, we said list the files in the sessions folder. And what Claude Code did was it took this command in English, translated to, it identified that it needs to run a PowerShell command. So it ran a PowerShell command, and then took the result and said, yes, there is a file here, right? Then we asked it to extract data from the file. We specified this, the folder has a PDF file, extract these details, and it was able to do this. It did some things. We'll talk about it, this skill thing again, but it used certain things it has. It extracted data from the file. So this is really cool now that we are able to talk with it, and it's able to do a lot of things for us now, right? Without us having to write a single line of code. Then we said, okay, store these in a formatted table in an HTML file. It should have the header Big Academy, vendor invoices. It should be a single HTML file. And here, when you click on something like this, you'll see the asset. You see the preview like this, okay? The asset has come up on the right. You can see what it looks like. We made a first version. We like this. We realize, okay, we can just talk to it, and it makes these things for us. Then we added another file and said, check if there's another file. If yes, extract the same info and update the data in the HTML code. And it did that, okay? So what we realized is we gave it all this context, not a lot, but we gave this context. But what we really want is that we don't have to repeat this again and again. And the Claude system understands what this project is and what we're supposed to do. I close this chat window and come back again, I shouldn't have to write this whole prompt and explain everything again and again, right? So I want some context regarding this project and task at hand in a file. And for that purpose, I created a claude.md file. And for all of these things, there's different commands to this stuff. There's a /init command. Let developers do that, right? If you enjoy that, but you don't need to. You can just tell Claude, create a claude.md file for this folder. It took the context so far. It created a claude.md file. The claude.md file looks something like this. It has all of these details, what this project is, what are the contents, working with invoices, report structure, and so on. It did all of this. So we made a claude.md file, and that claude.md file, as we discussed, will be the briefing which is provided to Claude in every conversation in this project. That's one easy way, cheap way of, very easy way of giving context to Claude. Okay, and we did a few more things. We gave it a screenshot from the website and said, replicate these colors, this color theme, and so on. We did all of this, and then after doing all of this, right, I said maintain a list somewhere of all the invoices processed, check the folder for a new invoice. If there is one extracted, it found another one, and so on and so forth. We kept doing this again. At some point, this entire process was defined well in the claude.md file. And at some point, I would just say check again, and it knew exactly what to do. So I say check again. It knows, okay, it has to go and check whether there is a file in the folder. If there's a file, extract information, then do this, and I'll check in the JSON whether it existed before or not, whether it is processed or not. If it is not in the JSON, it's a new file. Then extract the data, update the HTML, update the other HTML, and so on. So 7 steps over here, right? So we have come to a point where we say check again, and system knows it has to do these 6 or 7 steps. So we got very close to a working system or some sort of an automation. And final thing we did was, the claude.md really had the entire process in a way encoded. We went ahead and we went to the routine section, and we automated, or we just set up a schedule for this. We run this at a particular time. That's it. Okay. This is what we did the last time around. Our routines was here in the Claude section. And we went to routines and we said, okay, we create a new routine. Everything we did was local because we didn't want you all to figure out GitHub and cloning GitHub repos and so on. So we keep it simple. Everything was local. We define, we give a name to the routine, we give a description, we select which folder, which model, and that's it. We set the time, and that was the routine. We ran the routine, and we were good. Okay, so that's that. So you folks can, this was a process. If you have any curiosities again, what will happen if I place the file again and so on, just give it a try, right? You don't lose anything other than a few tokens perhaps. Okay, so right, let's proceed. This was what we did yesterday. Let's come back. This was a recap. Let's come back here, right? And you can see my screen, I'm sure. All right, so day 1 recap is done. Now, how do we move from here? Okay. So now, folks, you are ready for the real talk, okay, the serious talk. And I have a question for you, right? And this is really, I think now you are ready to take on this kind of a question, right? You know enough about the system and so on. And the question is, what's a harness? Like, what is a harness? Have you folks heard of the term harness so far? Yeah? Yeah? No? I mean, I'm not getting a lot of feedback from you all this time. Yesterday was much more active. Yes, okay.
Heard about ordering sprint, and not about hardness, but heard about ordering sprint.
Aha, okay. But folks haven't heard about harness before. Okay, so harness is the new. This is gaining a lot of popularity, and you will soon hear about harness engineering as a topic. And systems like Claude Code and the others are harnesses, right? So anyway, so harness is a very hot topic right now, and I'll explain in a minute what this is. Okay. So, but yeah, it's important to know this term because you will see harness engineering all the time now. Okay. So anyway, what is a harness? First thing to realize is that a model is not same as the system. So you are right now interacting with Claude Code. Claude Code is not a particular model. Okay, so if you go to Claude Code right now, you go to this chat window, right? You could come in, you could change the model, right? You could change the model, you could have some open source model connected, you could do anything. So it's the system is not the model. The model is one part, one small component of the system. So it's much more than the model, right? So what is the harness? The harness, okay, this is the bigger one. The agent is the model plus the harness. So if I go back to this brain and body analogy, the model is the brain and everything else is the harness. Okay. And a raw model is not an agent. This is important. The raw model is not an agent because, as I mentioned, the LLM can be replaced. That's not really the agent. The LLM can just give you a response. The LLM can't do anything. The agent is a doing entity. So the harness, okay, the harness, which right now is the Claude Code, the harness gives it life, or blows life into it in a way. So the harness takes the LLM, gives it a state, gives it tools to execute. So essentially gives it like a body in a way, feedback loops and constraints. And the harness is what takes the LLM and harness plus the LLM together, become the agent. So when you're interacting with Claude Code right now, this system is the agent that you're interacting with. Claude Code is the harness, and Claude is the model. This Claude Haiku 4.5 is the model. Okay, and like that, you have other harnesses as well. Okay. And in general, in a modern agentic system, if the model is the engine, the harness is the car where it runs, and the road and the traffic rule, because the harness includes all these things. The guardrails, the rules around it, how it interacts, what tools, how it accesses things, and so on, how it connects with the system, and so on. Okay, so modern systems right now, if you want to think about this, the model is really 20% of the system you're interacting with. The stuff around it is really where the value is, which is why harness engineering will be a term you will hear a lot in the coming months. Okay. All right. And anti-gravity, Claude Code, Cursor, all of these are harnesses, right? And this harness includes instructions and rule files, tools, sandboxes and execution environments, logic to orchestrate this, guardrails, observability, and so on. If you'd like to learn more, I will share this link in chat. Oops, give me a moment. How Claude Code works. Claude generally has really good documentation. So if you want to understand anything about Claude Code, just go to the official documentation. They're doing a really good job over there. Okay, perhaps they use Claude Code a lot to write this documentation. So let me share this in the chat, and you'll have this understanding. Okay, so let's go back. Okay. Straighter. Okay. Right, so Claude Code, anti-gravity, Cursor, all of these are the systems which are running this. They're also called harnesses. Okay, and don't worry about the terminology too much, really. It's all, none of it is, really hard. They fixed, or it's all nebulous. So don't worry about this. 3 months later, it will be called something else, all right? Anyway, so we did this. We also reviewed our workflow, right? So we have this whole workflow. So we now understand harnesses and stuff. We understand Claude Code, and we understand Claude Code. There's the system, and there's a brain which can be replaced, and so on and so on. We go back to our workflow, and if you look at the workflow that we had, what it really does, if I want to understand the main steps in the workflow, right? Or maybe I could also open the claude.md file. Okay? Let me just open the claude.md. Okay, what it does, what does the workflow do? This is a project overview in the claude.md file. So those who downloaded the zip file, you should be able to see all of these files out there. Okay. So what it does is, first, check for new invoices. So scan the folder. This is the workflow, right? Scan the folder for PDF, doc, docx files, extract details from the invoice, so and so, update the tracking if there's a new file, and so add it to invoices process.json. Then update vendor invoices, update this file as well, right? So this is essentially what it is. This is the process. Now, there's a few things you might want to do to improve this process, and that's really the focus of this. Okay, how do we make this process better in general, and then how do we have this process run like an agent, right, in different patterns, and we'll see those patterns. Okay, so let me come back. Okay, so our workflow right now has a few steps, but upfront already I can notice that there is a step around validation which is missing. So let's say I extracted details, right? I just need to make sure the details are also correct, right, or at least not illogical. So for instance, if I remember last time around when we did this, not the Claude MD file, there was another file. Okay, yeah, this expenses analysis file. If I view this, come on. Okay, open this in the preview. Where's the expenses analysis file? File. Why is it not displaying like a regular file? Okay, let it be. But okay, but yeah, this expenses analysis files, if you remember from the last time around, it had some issues with this one, not expenses. Sorry, this was an invoices file, not the expenses analysis. Sorry, my bad. So this file, yeah, it had some issues with this, right? The euros, the formatting over here. It also had some issues with the VAT field, right? Sometimes it gives a VAT ID, sometimes it gives a VAT percentage, and so on. So there are some things you might want to fix over here. So of course, you folks understand this. You have also done some vibe coding, so there's a bit of back and forth needed to fix this. Okay, that's fine. You folks can do this, but what we'll do is some steps which we clearly know are missing, we'll add them. So we'll add a validation step. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, as I want to add a few more steps. Also, I would like to see, is there a better way of doing this entire thing? Because right now I do have a Claude MD file which defines the workflow, but are there other ways of doing this reliably? Okay, so let's come back here, and we understand that there's two things we can do. One, update the steps itself, and also try to see if we can have it in a more reliable manner, right? And there are three patterns which we could use here to do this. Okay, this is I'll try to manage the depth here, not go too deep, but at the same time give you some really insightful learnings here, right, and not just superficial stuff. So there's three patterns here. One is the single well-defined agent. So you define an agent in a markdown file somewhere, and you say that this is what you do. This is your task, all right? And your job is this. You will have 5 steps to do, and so on and so forth. That is what you could do. But in this case, really, it's not really very different from what is already happening. Claude Code is spinning up an LLM. It is the agent. System goes to the markdown file and sees the different steps. So having a single well-defined agent is not really adding any value. It's the same thing as what we have here. Okay. Specialized skill. This is interesting. Now, what is this? This is a well-defined, reusable skill file. So whenever you have tasks which are repeating, okay, and yesterday when we asked Claude to read the PDF, we noticed it output that it is using the PDF skill. So for tasks which are repeated, or which are very common tasks, it makes sense to package them into skills. And these are set of instructions, really, and I'll explain what those skills are. These set of instructions, and there's a particular way of packaging this process, really, right? Specialized process, and that is one way of doing it. So we could do the same. We could have a skill which does all of this stuff for us. Okay. Number 2 is the third pattern. Number 3 is skill plus sub-agents. So this would be a combination of a skill, which is really driving the whole process. Okay, so the skill will tell the system that first do this, then do this, third do this, and so on. But for those specific tasks or subtasks, what we could potentially do is, instead of having one single agent go through all the tasks and all the memory and the context being updated, why not have separate specialized agents? So the agent which does the HTML update is specialized for doing just that. It has its own rules. It is focused only on that. The agent which does the data validation does only that. Okay, so that is another way of doing this. So the skill will define what steps are being executed, and for specific steps, we could also have specialized sub-agents running. Okay, and this is the third pattern, and I would like that we cover both of these, okay, pattern 2 as well as pattern 3. This will make it really valuable, and you folks can view the recording, and I'm sure this will be a big delta in your learning, okay. So let's do pattern 2 and 3 because pattern 1 is already implicit, okay. All right, so let's move on. So these two is what these two will do. So agent skills, this is the first topic. And skills, how many of you have kind of tried skills before or know the skill stuff from before? This is like, this at least is a bit more popular term than harness. Okay, many, okay. All right. You also probably heard about skill files and files being shared and so on. So we'll see, right? So Rohit says, no, okay, cool. But I'll explain it in a fair amount of detail today. So this is a very important concept, right? Okay, no, perfect. Okay, that's all good. So agent skills. What are these skills? Packages of information for the AI agents to discover and use, and these serve as onboarding for Claude. So if I go back to Claude, okay, if I go back to Claude, you see here type / okay, for commands, and actually here, let me see. Here, if I hover over this PDF, okay, or if I just say PDF, okay, if I hover over PDF, you notice this anthropic skills. The first thing it says is anthropic skills. Use the skill whenever the user wants to do anything with PDF files. This includes reading or extracting text or tables from PDF, combining or merging multiple PDFs, splitting PDFs, and so on and so on. So if the user mentions a .pdf file or asks to produce one, use this skill. Now, this instruction, use this skill whenever, who is this for? This is not for you and me, right? As you can see, it tells the system that when the user wants something to do with PDF files, the system needs to use this skill. So this skill is really for the agent to use, right? To analyze and to use. Okay? The skill files are not for you and me. These are standard instructions which are given to agents. These are fortunately, lucky for us, because we can then read it and interpret and modify, right? These are in Markdown, or which is pretty close to formatted text. Okay, so this is a skill, right? And like this, there are many different skills. docx is an anthropic skill. Design is something else. It's all commands. But some of these, let's say code, no, not code review. There would be some other, right? Some of these are skills. This humanizer. This was a skill which I got from somewhere else. Remove signs of AI text from it and so on. Invoice processor is a skill I had created a while ago. PPTX is again an anthropic skill and so on. So you see these skills, right? Essentially somewhere these are packages of say information or a routine or a process, and the agent reads them and knows what to do. Okay, that's what a skill really is. Okay, these are system skills. Yes, so these are system skills right now. Okay, but we'll talk about how to use these skills now. There's another very nice link by Anthropic. As I mentioned, Anthropic documentation is generally really good. I will share this. This is a PDF file. Oh man, okay. https resources.anthropic.com. Okay, so I'll share this link again. Please take a look. This is really good. You can take a look later. But a lot of things about skills, what they are. Okay, coming back. So, like I said, packages of information for AI agents, not for humans to really read and say, go through, but for the AI agents to work with. Okay, these are onboarding for Claude. Why do you need this? You need, or the benefits of this is, number one, you get consistent results on specialized tasks. This is essentially a way of defining exactly how you want to do this particular task. The skill is there, and everyone, right? You have this, you can see the other thing, right? Build once, use everywhere. So let's say there's a particular way you want to process certain data, which you get in your day-to-day work, or certain processing to do. The first time you do it, you do it manually and you figure out, I need to do this thing every day 5 times, right? So instead of doing it manually, you're copying the entire prompt somewhere, you make a skill. And every time you need to do this particular task, right, you just invoke the skill and the system will repeat the exact same steps every single time. So this becomes much more consistent. Also, as I mentioned, you can build the skill once, you can use it everywhere. So, for those who are into programming, this is practically like a function, right? Having a function or a routine. So you write a function, you can call that function from anywhere else, right? It's consistent, okay? Modularize as well. The third benefit is that it can capture what you organize. So this is institutional knowledge, which is captured in the skill as well. So this is exactly how we do things. This is exactly how our convention is, right? And all of this can be part of the skill as well. And you can also stack skills. So you can say, the PDF skill to do this, then the data extraction is a separate skill, data validation is specific ways the next skill, taking it into PPTX is another skill, right? So you can have a complex, let's say, routine or complex, let's say, workflow, which is a skill itself. Just step one, this, step two, this, which itself can be a skill. So you can put together these individual skills into form a larger workflow. So you can combine skills for multi-step workflows, and Claude uses Claude calls or invokes what it needs and just takes that skill. Okay, so skills essentially, these small pockets of information in files. I'll show you exactly how they are, but they are placed somewhere in your working directory and global. There's again some details over there. But once you have told Claude through a file that this is exactly how I validate my data, right? Next time this project, any other project, you invoke that skill, it will repeat that entire process. Okay, this is why it is powerful. And what it does, okay, so far, when we are prompting, what we were trying to do was, how do I trick or prompt the model into giving me a good result, right? So you keep iterating and, oh, this is the edge case, that is the edge case, and your prompt becomes complex, more and more complex, and you're trying to somehow force or trick the model to give you a good result. And despite your efforts, it is still not consistent. You run the same thing 5 times, it might give you a different result twice. So this is how bad it is. Okay, it is not, let's say, deterministic by nature, right? That's how it is. So instead of thinking, how do I trick it, you change your mindset to, if there were a new team member on this project, what is all the information I need to give to them or provide them so they can do their job well? That is what a skill really is. All the information they would need, all the instructions they would need to do this particular task really well. And then the next part is, okay, how do I encode this in a format which AI can use? Okay. But the main thing is, how do I capture my process knowledge, domain expertise, the steps to follow into a single file? That is really it. What would a team member need to know? That is essentially a skill. What would a team member need to know to execute this task? And then once you get this is what I need to do, then it's about, okay, what is the format, what kind of file and everything, right? So anyway, so we need to give Claude MD and skills at SOP. Yes, I'll come to this point because at some point, it's all about giving context or giving information. There are various ways of giving information, right? Earlier, you were giving this information using Claude.md, but now you can give this information using skills as well. And now there's a question then, okay, what goes in the Claude.md? What goes into the skill files? And we'll see that discussion as well towards the end. Because then you get into a very complex design question, right? Which is for later perhaps. Now, how is this skill then, say, expressed? Or what is the form of this skill, right? Because we know it needs information and instructions. We also saw an example, the PDF skill. So, but in the most general form, the skill is not a markdown file. The skill is essentially a folder where the required file is the markdown file. But that's not what you need. I mean, it can be more complex than that, right? So required file is a markdown file, which is a skill.md, which is just the instructions, yes. But in more complex cases, you might also have script. So when you are doing data cleaning, you say, okay, use this particular script to remove these or normalize a text, for example, and get rid of these or encode this into this particular encoding, right? Or if you're a business person, say aggregate the data to this particular level, or remove these particular districts from the data, right? So you have specific scripts. Of course, you need to provide those scripts to the skill. So you can have scripts, you can have references, you can have other assets like templates, fonts, icons, and so on. Essentially, all that the agent would need to do the job, you give all of it in a particular folder. Folks, this is like really getting so convenient for us, right? And this seems to be a right balance between machine understanding plus the human also being able to really assess what's in there and modify it. Because Me going and adding a file to a folder is much easier than me writing codes and everything, put it into a vector database somewhere and hoping, somehow the system picks it up. It is very complex. This stuff is really opening a lot of possibilities for all of us. Okay. So anyway, so bare minimum, you need a skill.md file, but you can make the description richer by giving it scripts, by giving it references, and giving it assets. Okay. And as you see, the very simple format. So you when you have a folder, you generally have a .claude folder. In our folder as well. I'm not sure if you guys can see this. Let me know. You can see my. You can't see the Explorer. You can see the Explorer, right? So you see that there's a .claude file in our folder as well. And this is session 1. Yeah, I already have skills. Okay. Session 1, session. Okay, yeah, let's fix this later. Anyway, .claude file already, and in the .claude folder, .claude folder, you have the skills and agents, whatever will be added over here. Okay, so let's go back here, and that is a very simple thing. Skills, and within the skills, you can have multiple skills: skill 1, skill 2, skill 3. If you have 3 skills, each of them is a folder, right? And within them, again, if you're giving more examples, it can be further nested. So you can have a skill name, and then within that skill, you can have a skill.md file, which is the mandatory one. Then there are further templates and references and so on. Okay, but in general, there will be a working directory. Within that, there's a .claude, which you also have in your folder, .claude. Within the .claude folder, you will add a skills folder, and within that, you will add individual skills. That is just how it is, nested, simple, straightforward. Okay? So this is how you will have the skill file. And the simplest form of a skill is this. In the beginning, you need to have these symbols here, which essentially there's a term for this, YAML, front matter, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but you need to have a name and a description. Okay? This is very important because when Claude works, it doesn't load or doesn't read the entire file for the skill, okay? Because the skill file could be long, right? So Claude first reads the description and the name, and based on the name and description, Claude figures out whether in my task, in my process, I need this particular skill or not, okay? So it's very important to have a clear name and a clear description so Claude can know what this skill is for, right? Okay, so this is how a skill would be. Name and description are really important, and then the instructions, okay? And the idea, as I mentioned over here, is that when Claude starts, it has very limited context. And then there is the task which comes up to this. And Claude figures out, okay, I need to read a PDF file. Fine. Now, now it knows it needs to read a PDF file, but which available skill does it use? So it scans through the skills. It sees a header, right? This metadata, right? It sees a description of the PDF skill. Then it identifies, yes, I need to use this particular skill, right? And then it loads that particular file. So this thing, right, of Claude, as in when there's a task to be done, it finds out which skill is needed, and only then it loads that particular skill into context, right? That is called progressive disclosure. Essentially, getting information only when you need that information and not just front-loading everything. Okay? This is progressive disclosure. And what happens as a result is that in the beginning, it's a simple generalist kind of a agent, but as you start executing, giving it skills, right? It gets all the information, domain knowledge and everything, and then becomes a very good specialist. Okay? So effectively, an agent can carry dozens of specialized capabilities, but only the capabilities which you are employing in that particular run are the ones that you are really paying for. Okay. Claude automatically finds a skill, yes, because of description, it does a scan. Okay. So this is the idea of skills. You have skills defined in some markdown files in a folder and some supporting documents if you may. And then after that, after you have that skill defined, Claude will be able to just, skill will have the entire process, right? And then you should be able to just refer to the skill and Claude will know exactly what to do. And this is much better than trusting that Claude will do everything correctly, okay? So let's go ahead and create the skill, okay? And I'll talk about these things later, but let's go ahead and create the skill for our project as well, okay? So what you need to do now is, you can open, by the way, other folks, you can open a new chat as well, okay? That's the whole benefit of having a Claude.md, right? You can open a new session. You don't have to have the previous chat, which is too long, right? You can open a new one. You can change the model or whatever if you'd like. Make sure the working directory is what you want it to be. So session 1, all right? In my case, and it looks like I've already created a skill, but I will give you the prompt to create your own skill, okay? So open up that project, okay? Make sure your working directory is the one where you have all of this data, all of these files, right? And to create the skill, there's again many ways, you can do this, and you can have a skill creator skill, and there's many ways to do this, okay? But we'll take the simplest one, which is we just tell it what to do, all right? So I'm going to tell it to do so, okay? I will put this in chat as well for everyone, okay? I'll just copy it from there, folks. But what I'm telling it is this: create a skill for this project. It should have the following steps, okay? For sure, whatever. But 1, it scans the folder for new PDF invoices, or for new invoices, essentially. You can specify the format could be PDF, docx, what else, RTF, whatever formats, right? Some specific formats. It can have these formats. Then it use the PDF skill to extract the invoice details. Then number 3, it validates the extracted data, and you can also give a list of validations to make, okay? 4th, it adds the validated entry to the invoice process.json with the processing status, okay? Then you update the vendor analysis.html, and then you update expenses analysis to recalculate month category breakdown charts, okay? So all of the steps you were doing earlier, right? We are now asking it to create a skill. There's a bit of a detail. I mean, it will still ask you, okay, do you want all of them to be distinct steps? How many distinct steps do you want to be? We could also say something like, okay, step 1 is a separate step, step 2 is a separate step, and so you'll see in a moment, right? But right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? 6 steps in this particular skill. And I've added this in chat as well. Go ahead and close, okay? And in my case, okay, it says I create a comprehensive invoice processing skill. And what it does, by the way, the fun part is, Claude Code uses a skill creator tool. It actually has a skill creation skill itself, okay? And then it uses a skill to create new skills. So this is really cool stuff. Okay. So now it took that information, but it also has a few follow-up questions. Okay. So this part is clear. 6 steps is clear. But before I draft, let me clarify a few skills. So quick interview. This is really good that it asks me, okay, because I don't necessarily specify it well enough, right? Skill needs to extract this. Are there any other fields? So I can answer all of these questions. Okay, so if you folks might have gotten different questions perhaps, but answer them as well. So I'm going to say no to the first one, no other fields. Number 2, should the skill process all invoices, or should it skip files already processed to avoid duplicates? Process only new files, okay, or not processed yet, okay? So check the JSON, correct? Number 3, error handling. When the validation fails or missing invoice data in valid amount, should it flag and skip the file? Should it flag and skip the file? Manual review needed. Should it prompt for missing data? What should it do? What do you folks suggest? Should it say add a row in red? Maybe that helps. Okay. HTML in red, perhaps. Yeah. Number 4, date formats should be standardized. Yes, standardize. Number 5, currency. Your template uses euro. Yes, please use euro. Or should assume, maybe for simplicity, let's assume all are in euro. Otherwise, we would have also said, convert using some latest conversion. Okay? But anyhow, it gives me a few questions. I'm able to answer them. And once I do this, it will create a skill file. Okay. Give a red flag. All right. So just give this prompt. It has all the info it needs. And now it will draft the skill file. And we'll see the skill file. And there's a small detail here. When Claude creates a skill, there's also levels and where it is used. So, or the scope, essentially. You could have skills which are employed only in this particular project. Okay? You could have skills which are employed globally across the board. You could have skills which are employed for anyone working on this project within the team. So you can have a project level skill, you can have a global skill, and so on, right? System level skill. So there's also something. So by default, Claude, if you see, Claude is doing it here, right? Which is the global directory. Okay. For now, I will allow it. I will say always allow because I trust Claude. Okay. So Claude is making this skill file, but what I'm going to do is I will say move this skill file to the current folder, right? So that it's doing Python scripts and so on. Okay. It's creating some helper scripts, which is complex. Anyway, it doesn't necessarily need to do that, but okay, fine. I could also stop this, by the way, but let it finish. So I hope you folks are also able to get these kind of responses from it. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is once it finishes, right, I say move this skill file to the project folder. Okay. Did anyone already get the skill created? Anyone? Let me know in chat. No, okay, still waiting for everyone. Okay, yeah. Creating helper scripts which will handle the heavy lifting and so on. That's fine. Let it create. And by the way, you should also pay attention to the number of tokens. I'm using Haiku. Okay, I'm using Haiku. So Haiku is, I mean, it uses fewer tokens, right? It gets the job done. So I'm using Haiku. It's cheap as well. But other folks use, for some reason, people always want to use the latest and the best model because they think that is necessary. But you don't need to really. So of course, if you choose some other model, it will be more expensive. Yeah, 4.8 of Fable, right? But anyway, Haiku, I use Haiku. Haiku has a smaller context window. As you can see, it's 200K. Other ones it might have like 600K or 1 million context window as well, right? So we just be aware of these things, all right? Anyway, these are the things. The skill has been made. It's done for me. I'm gonna ask it to move this skill file to the current project folder, okay? And it should do the same. It should do that. By the way, it also asked me, should I run test? Let's skip this for now. Allow one, okay. So now it's moving everything from the global level to the project level, okay? And it's verifying the structure is done. And you see now there is an invoice processor skill, okay? So I go back to my folder and I see this, okay? This folder was here. There is something called invoice processor. And within this, there's references and everything, which is fine. But I really want it to be inside a skills folder. That's the standard way of doing this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do it inside the skills folder. Okay, I could just go and say, okay, put the skills inside a skills folder. It will move it. So, and this is the good part again. All of these smaller movements here, you don't need to do it manually. Just tell it. Okay, so create the skills folder and done. Okay. And then once you do this, you'll see. I will show this to you. What we have at hand. So let's just see. Oh, allow. So always allow. For the first few times you do it, it will ask, but always allow for this particular folder or this project and so on. Okay. And now it's done. And now you see the folder structure. So in this session 1, there is a skills folder. Within skills, there is invoice processor. And within that, there is a skill.md, which is the mandatory file. And then there is those specific evals and references and scripts and so on. Okay. So this is really cool, by the way. It has done all of this without you writing a single line of code, right? This is how powerful this stuff is. If I go back to this, I see that, yes, there is indeed a skills. And within this, there is invoice processor. And within that, there is a skill.md file. And you can open that file and see what exactly it is. Okay. So again, this is really, you can, by the way, you can open this from here also. You can see the files. You can see skills. You can see the skill.md file, right? And you can see the MD file over here, what exactly it is. Cool. So you have created your first skill, folks, right? This encapsulates the entire process. So if you got a result, it doesn't matter where it put it, but if you got a skill, then great job. You have created your first AI agent skill. Anyone else done? Yes, perfect. Some folks are done. So good, you folks are able to create your own files. Awesome. So now this thing, whenever you have a new file, right, you can test it out. I mean, I give you a folder and some PDFs, but you can put a new file in the folder, right? The link was shared with you earlier. You can put a new file in the folder. Let me share it again with you in this. And let me share this folder, demo invoices. I can pick a new invoice from there and add it, all right? And you should be able to just try it out, okay? And it will work. So this is really, you have a skill essentially, okay, which is now an entire process, which you have just defined and made in English, pure English. All right. Now, by the way, I'm seeing in chat that some of the folks don't have as complex a skill which I have. So again, it varies. So I mean, we didn't specify it well enough, which is why you and I are getting a bit of a difference. But of course, if we are very much more specific, we all can get very similar results. But in this case, we didn't specify too much in the prompt. But this is fine for now. If you want, you could again talk to it and have the skill updated as well, right? So first job done, folks. Great job. This pattern is done. We had 3 patterns here. First pattern, specialized skills done. Let's do the last pattern, which is skill plus sub agents. I'm aware of the time as well. Let's try to finish this in 10 minutes. Okay? But conceptually, what we're doing now is not very different. Okay, and let's do this. Let's just go back here in the same window. Okay, and instead of having one big skill, all the steps, okay, I'll say create, okay, a skill, okay, or update the skill. I want the skill to spawn 4 sub agents, okay, and agent 1 for the, what I want it for. Let me think. Okay, let me do this. Agent 1 for the okay, agent 1 for the file checking, new file check and data extraction. Agent 2 or sub agent, right? Sub agent 1, sub agent 2 for data validation. Sub agent 3 for, what else was there? Update the tracking, perhaps? Nah, okay. I think we need 3 is enough. Update the HTML files. Okay. 3 are enough. So 1 is for scan invoices. Second is the data extraction, right? Scan invoices and data extraction is 1. Data validation is 2nd. And yeah, oh no, I think update the JSON file is another one. Yeah. So number 3 is update the tracking files. Typo is fine. And number 4, update the HTML files. Okay. We want this one skill which will do all of this. Okay. And again, there's another way to create agents. You do a / agent or whatever, you can do that, but you don't need to, right? That's the whole point. I mean, you could just tell it, update the skill. I want the skill to spawn 4 sub agents, sub agent 1, 2, 3, 4, and just go ahead. Okay. Again, this might take a bit of time, but you get the idea. You'll see the moment it creates 1 or 2 skills, we'll be able to see. Okay. And once you have this done, the process, essentially what we're doing is we're getting to pattern number 3. Pattern number 3 is a specialized skill will decide what to do next, and in its path, right? And when it goes to step number 2, it says, okay, for this particular task, I'm going to use this particular sub agent. Okay? And there's a main agent running, which is doing the entire orchestration of, which is doing all the process, right? And within this, when it reaches a certain point, it invokes a particular sub agent. It gets the result. That starts the next agent. It gets that result and keeps adding on to it. So that is what will happen now. And it is editing the skill. And you also do this. Okay. Okay, it has done this already. Okay. I have updated the invoice processor. to use 4 specialized subagents used. Okay, it has 4 subagents. Number 1, and they're all sequential, by the way. At least phase 1 is sequential. Subagent 1 is file scanning and extraction, scans for PDF, docx, and RTF, identifies new files, and perfect. Okay. Phase 2, okay, run all 3 parallelly. That's interesting, right? Anyway, you also argue with it and say, okay, phase subagent 2 must be run before going into tracking file and updating the HTML files, right? So it's it's up to you how you define the process very well, right? Key features and so on. And the skill is now in this. This is the same folder we had before. This is the skill. Okay, let me go back up. So skills in this folder, you now have session 1. You have skills. But where are the agents? Okay. I will ask it to place the agents in the agents folder in the project folder. So again, I want that all my stuff is for this particular project. I mean I could have specified actually. I could have specified it in the beginning itself. Place these agents in my working directory. Okay. But anyway, it's fine. I'm optimizing my own process, perhaps, right? So folks, go ahead and do this. Okay, it will create these 4 subagents. It will, and maybe should see an agents folder now. As you can see, there's an agents folder, and within this, as you can see now, one by one, I see new agents coming up. So agent 1 is for extraction. Agent 2 is validation, right? And each of these agents is now essentially a markdown file. Okay, and you see agent 3 is update tracking. Agent 4 will be update HTML files. Yeah. I don't know about you folks, but just being able to do so much, right? Again, not writing a single line of code or a single command. This is super powerful. And if I go back here, you'll see there are 4 of them. Okay. If I open any one of them, I mean, I could open any one of them. Maybe I could say display a validation agent or the update HTML agent. Okay. And it will display that right in this preview. The site says in this on the side, essentially in this view preview tab. Let's wait. Oh, it's still running the previous one. It's running the main skill.md file to reference these agent files. So it does all of this stuff. Okay. And now what I could do is, again, because now I have so much, all the detail, all the context given agent files and skill files, maybe I don't need to have the Claude.md with so many details, all right? So again, we can also modify that, okay? So this has done its job. It has 4 agents, agent 1, scan files and extract, all of this. It also has the skills. And now this is your updated folder structure, which is pretty cool. You have agents, you have the skills separately. All of this done. And it tells what each agent does, and so on and so forth. Display the HTML file, update HTML agent, and this is a sub-agent for HTML reports, right? And all. So everything, folks, all of it from your chat window, you have all of this created. And finally, if you want to try it out, how it works, take that location which I shared with you, right? The drive, the Google Drive, download one of the files from there. Okay. And let's see one of the files which is not already present in the folder. So if you go to the folder, you go back up, you see in invoices, there is ECD, there's 004, 005, 003 is missing, right? So just take 003 and add it to the folder, and perhaps it works, perhaps it doesn't. If it doesn't work, you know how to fix it, just do some vibe coding and fix it. So I'm going to take 003. I'm going to add 003 to this same folder. Okay, it's there. And now I can run this skill. Okay. What is the name of the skill, by the way? Okay, just invoice processor. Okay, I could just say run invoice processor. Are you folks with me so far? Did some of you folks get this? Skill are for repeatable workflow. What are agents for? Okay, I'll come to this question. Ahmed, you are working in an agent right now. There's a main agent, and then there are sub-agents. And although they are different things, there are situations, especially when you have sequential flows, when you have a question, does this need an agent or does this need to be just a part of a skill, right? And in single or multi-step sequential workflows, maybe there's not much of a consideration. I mean, it's very similar, I say. It's just some details around how much context accumulates and being able to do things in parallel and so on, right? But when you have a bit more complex system, this is an important design question then. And lot depends on your project really. Okay, and there's a nice diagram I'll show you towards the end, which is a bit more complex. So I wanted to keep it for the end. Okay, but we'll maybe perhaps discuss it later. All right. So if folks you are with me, let's run this. Okay, run invoice processor. And now when I do this, the system should be smart enough to identify I wanted to run invoice processor skill. Okay, and now you see I'll run the invoice processor skill, right? It identifies that by orchestrating the 4-agent workflow. Let me start by checking the current and spawning agents. Okay, now I'll do always allow. Okay, go ahead and do that. I'm not sure if it will give you as the desired result because we haven't tested it. This is the first time we're testing it. Maybe it doesn't, but the fact we still got it running, right? Maybe there's a bit of a fine tuning needed. We'll figure it out. But what you'll also see now is as it is running, you'll see you go here on the right side. You'll see there is, where is this? No, not here, not yet. Okay, it is running these agents, and now there's no, yeah. Now you see there's some activity going on. Okay, you can see what the command was. You can see all of these details now as it is running. So now you see there are background tasks. Sub-agent number 1 is running. It is scanning and file scanning and invoice. If you'd like, you can also see the exact transcript, right? What is really going on in this entire processing for this particular sub-agent. Okay, just always allow for all of them. Sub-agent 1, it took 29, 30 tokens. Sub-agent 2 needs me to install Python. That is a problem, but anyway, maybe, okay. Okay, PDF number failed, right? And this is something which is good, it failed. Maybe I could ask it to not use Python, right? It needs Python file and so on. So this is something. And in general, by the way, Anthropic has its own PDF skill, which is really good. It doesn't need Python for this part, by the way. So I could now, as a fix, I could go and update the skill and say that do not use PDF Plumber for this, okay? For the Python processing, just use the default PDF skill, okay? So anyhow, so this it will work now. Essentially, you get the idea. Agent 1, Agent 2, Agent 3, Agent 4, all of it will work and you'll get the final result, okay? And the interesting thing now, by the way, is that it waited after Agent 1 is done. Now Agent 2, 3, and 4 all are in parallel. Why? Because of course they were all supposed to be in parallel, right? It didn't wait for Agent 1 to do this, okay? All right, token 24. Yeah, there's something in chat about tokens. Surprising to see token use is shown. Oh, Claude Code is lovely, folks. I mean, once you start using Claude Code, right, the amount of details you have, it's really good. I mean, you don't need to know these details every time, but you have these options, yeah? Anyhow, okay, it did run. It did run the entire thing. And okay, it is showing me the final one. Okay. There's the other one, there's another one, right? But it did do that. It did find invoices as well. So that's good. Awesome, folks. So yes, the agent did run properly, and we have successfully successfully made say skill which spawns multiple agents. One is there's a sequence and then 3 run in parallel, right? You could do all of this. So did you folks also get it working? How we fix that PDF one? Well, I think the PDF thing worked in my case. So the easiest way for you to fix it really is either you have PDF Plumber, that package installed in your machine, or you ask it, don't use PDF Plumber, right? Just use the default PDF skills. That is also enough. Okay, so just talk to it and you'll fix it. Okay. So there were 2 new rows added. Okay, that's it. Amazing, right? So all of this one. Okay, it does work for some folks. So if you could do this, this is really good. We did effectively, as you saw, right? We just conversed with it, and we could also apply pattern 3 as well, right? So let me go back to slides here. All right, so we did skills plus subagents as well, folks. This is really cool, just by talking. Anyway, so we spoke about skills. Let me go ahead, okay, and let me see if you folks have any questions. Okay. Meanwhile, I'm gonna. There's a few details which I've reserved. Subagents, by the way, subagents already did this, but subagents. What the point of subagents is that subagents are specialized agents, specialized assistants essentially, with their own context windows, their own custom prompts, and specific tool permissions. Okay, this helps you break down a complex workflow into individual ones. Okay, of course, and which are easier to manage and debug. And by the way, you see on the right, this is how subagents are born. This is how they reproduce. So the Claude takes and hits a laptop, and little baby Claudes are born, right? This is how it works. Nature is amazing. Right, and there's a few questions you might have. I have all of these things which we can discuss in detail later. I think Emma had a question around this. We can come back to this later, okay? But anyway, if you have done this or you'd like to go ahead, I would say don't start with the most complex stuff first. Step by step. You start prompting. Then once you see I need to do this again and again, add it to Claude.md. Once you realize you have to do it again, this whole task multiple times in repeatable manner, say make it a skill, right? So after you have a skill, and then you need other data sets and so on, an MCP server. There are plugins available which give you specific skills as well as agent definitions, for specific tasks. Then you then go towards a sub-agent, right? And then you finally write a hook and everything. Okay? So a lot of these things, you don't have to start with the hook in the beginning. You don't need to know what a hook really means. Okay, but this is just an entire journey, perhaps, which you can later go through, right, as you keep learning about this stuff. So there's a lot to do here. I mean, especially for developers, there's a lot of detail. But if you're not a developer, if you don't want to know these details, I think knowing Claude.md, knowing skill, knowing MCP server is sufficient. A sub-agent also might be a bit of a detail, right? This is really the difference. The skill paradigm is really the difference. Okay. So that's that. And congratulations, you folks did really well. You in the past 2 days, you started with Claude Code, you created your own AI agent, you made a custom Claude.md file, you built a system, and you automated with routines. And today, you made your custom skill, you created and deployed sub-agents, and you used Claude.md sub-agent skills together because it's all together now, right? And you did all of this in 2 hours, which is really amazing. And congratulations for yourself, okay? Let's see. And just FYI, by the way, if you folks want to continue learning, right? If you are really happy with what you could do in 2 hours, then you can do a lot more in a dedicated workshop. Because like I mentioned, people have been complaining that, they watch a lot of videos, they do a lot of webinars, but they're not making anything, right? So if you like this approach of learning by doing, then, check out this particular link. So we are on Maven, of course, Baig Academy. We have workshops over there as well. And these workshops are, of course, small cohorts. Things are much more detailed over there. We use multiple tools like Gemini and everything. So, and this particular course is agentic AI building for leaders, but essentially it means agentic AI building for, say, non-technical folks, right, who are not developers. So non-developers, basically, and building things, and there's deep dives, there's hands-on building. You can bring your own idea and ship your own multi-agent system as well, right? So this is what this course is about. So you can go to Baig Academy on Maven. You have workshops here. And in the workshops, right now we have 2 workshops, which you can already opt for. One is what I showed you, the agentic AI for building for leaders, which is non-engineers essentially, 4-hour session. And the other is a practical data and AI skills for PMs. Again, while it is written for PMs, it really applies to everyone, right? Anyone working with product or data and stuff. Okay, so both of these, just check them out. These courses are there, and if you like I said, if you like this approach of learning by doing, then you will love that workshop over there, right? So scan this QR code or go to baigacademy.ai and workshops, and you'll get this over here, right? Okay. Now coming back, let's see. And regardless, and even if you don't, enroll for the course, go to this Baig Academy /Maven./Baig Academy. You'll find the upcoming lightning lessons. We have a few, like I mentioned earlier. There's 4 different webinars already planned. Some of them are data science. Some of them are more like, again, Claude Code and co-work stuff. Some of them are data analysis with Claude Code, and so on. There's different kind of things, very varied topics. It's not only these topics. So keep an eye out. Be subscribed over there. You will hear from us again. We have a session every other week or almost every other week after a while. Yeah. So stay updated, and on LinkedIn, of course, you can connect on LinkedIn as well. And I do respond to questions. And I think just do HTTPS. So here perhaps, so LinkedIn.com, maybe HTTPS, will we make it a link? Okay, yeah, LinkedIn.com, Rahim Baig. Just, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I'm happy to answer questions over there. Generally happy to connect. Those who are in Berlin, happy to meet you in person as well. It's really good to go out and meet people in Berlin, generally, especially the weather right now. So not today, of course, but yeah, in general, summer is good. So let's meet if you folks are around. And yeah, that's all from my side. But yeah, there's a question. Let's take questions. I hope, by the way, I hope this was helpful for you all. Like I said, the idea was that you folks build something, right, and get concrete learning instead of watching another session where someone is walking you through some GitHub repos, right? I didn't want to do GitHub repos and stuff because you'll be lost. I wanted to do like actual building locally. So I hope this is valuable to you all. There's a question. Mohal, sorry, you have your hand raised for a while now. Please go ahead.
Yeah, question. One request and 2 general questions. The first request, can you go back to the slides, the one you skipped that you said were general questions? I want to kind of take a look at that.
Which one? Sorry.
It's towards the end. You skipped it. Yeah, keep going. It was maybe 4, 5 slides back.
What was it about? If you tell me, it'll be easy for me.
Yeah, I think it was like 51. It was, you said it quickly, like, oh, here's some questions you tend to ask. Maybe it's 51.
This sub-agents versus skills.
Yeah, this exactly. Okay, yeah. Now I'll read it. But the other 2 questions in general. One, do you also show and teach plugins? And 2, as part of that question, you're saying that skills can have multiple skills embedded in the skill. Is that the same thing as plugin, or is that something completely different structure?
Okay. So first thing, plugins. Yes, I mean, in the course we'll do plugins. Plugins is not really conceptually very different. I can show you, but yeah, plugins, we will use plugins. In fact, there's a whole marketplace of plugins. We will get plugins from there. Okay, and we will eventually, when you're building a system which is working day to day, right, for complex tasks, it is better you use plugins which are available and not try to reinvent everything, right? So we'll do plugins. Let me show you. If you go to Claude Code now, when you go to customize, right? In customize, you'll see a few things. There's skills. So there are some of these skills, right? Personal skills are not shown here at this point, but the other standard skills we have from Claude. Then there are connectors, which is the MCP stuff, right? Integrating with GitHub and Gmail or whatever. And then there is plugins. When you go to a plugin, and there are many Anthropic plugins right now. Let me just show you, I think a slides plugin, something. What was it called? There's one plugin which I liked, but it doesn't matter. Let's take one of these plugins, okay? Zapier plugin, for instance. And we go to Zapier. Okay, this plugin is not giving you much info. Some plugins give you very nice documentation. Which plugin was that? Figma? Let's visit on claude.com. But yeah, these plugins, right? When these plugins come along with multiple skills, right? Multiple skills, not one, right? This plugin comes with multiple skills and some MCP connectors as well. So when you get this plugin, it's really like the plugin is for the entire task, right? Or multiple tasks at hand, right? So plugin is standard activities, right? It's an extension of the MCP in a way. You can do like multiple tasks. You can have skills to do multiple tasks, right? And this is really cool. So we'll have this in the course. Yeah. Who has a question? Sorry.
And no, I was gonna say, yeah, I've used the plugins. I've downloaded a bunch: human resources, employer, et cetera. But so what's the difference between the plugin with multiple skills, hooks, et cetera, versus the structure you said where a skill can have multiple skills in it?
Okay, so this is I think it becomes a design question eventually. And again, because it's a design question, it depends on the task at hand. in your task, right, how much of context management is critical, how much of information being passed between different systems or different agents is necessary, right? How much of a context rot is happening. All of these will define really what is the setup to use. Because as I mentioned, all of these are design questions. I'll show you one slide. I didn't want to make it too complex, but maybe after answering, maybe I'll take other questions before. Towards the end, if we have time, we'll go through this, okay? But let me show you so when you talk of context, right, there are a few things. Okay? Context can be static. Context could be dynamic, okay? And it's how you manage this context, which depends, again, like I said, on the task at hand. You make these decisions, okay? If you have separate sub-agents, okay? Separate sub-agents would mean each of them has its own context window, right? But there's an overhead of orchestrating this, right? Taking this and taking the output and so on, and the main agent has to do all of that. Okay? If we have a single skill, and there is a single, like, sequential, there's 12 steps, but sequence one by one, right? Then maybe you don't need a sub-agent, right? So again, it depends on the task at hand, really, which you're doing. It's really hard to give a generic answer, okay? So I'll come to this question later, but I don't think it's a question for a very like at this stage. It is a very detailed question, and happy to answer this in the course when we're building something together. All right, let's take some other questions.
All right, thank you.
Okay, something in the Claude where it was depicted .claude folder is different from Claude.md file. Let me see what you mean. Okay, so let's come back here. There are a few different, and this was something I was showing you last session, really. Let me go back to the slides. The Claude.md file, which you have, can actually go in multiple different places. Okay, you can have it placed in the project folder like we did, or you can have it in some common shared team repository, or you can have it a universal set thing, which is used by all the projects. Okay, and if you'd like to learn further the details, I can share this link in chat. So please take a look at this. It gives you all the details you want around Claude.md files. Okay, but essentially there is a .claude folder, and all the things around config are in this .claude folder. So if you go in, you will see. Okay, why I just have skills? It doesn't have. But anyway, settings.json or whatever, right? This is where it has. Okay, config-related stuff. Agents and skills are separate. This is .claude, and in this case, all the data files are here, right? But yeah, this is .claude is different, and Claude.md is different, right? Claude.md is in the main folder, and there's another Claude.md in the global folder, in a way, your user folder. Okay. Any other question? Let's see. Can you share your slide pack? The recordings will all be shared, Rob, so you can refer to them. What else? Sajal says session was really good. Thank you, Sajal. Let's see. Any other question, folks? Was this useful for you all? Were you folks able to at least finally do something? Thank you very much again. You're most welcome. Orchestrator and harness, I think it's just a semantic, it's a vocabulary thing, really. Rohit, I honestly wouldn't be able to answer this at this time. Maybe my perspective, again, I could be wrong, is orchestrator is more of a limited. I don't know, man. Really, it's just a semantic thing. I really can't answer that question, but I perhaps would use them interchangeably. Is there any engineering person here who has worked on orchestrators? Maybe they can answer this. I'm not really an engineer, so. But for me, right, who's not an engineer, these are very similar in nature, and I wouldn't really worry about this so much. Will the skill work without defining the sub-agent? Yes, of course. So, the patterns, right? We saw different patterns without any sub-agent. The first time we ran the skill was without any agent whatsoever. Yeah. So skills work in general without any agents. Just to try out pattern number 3, we made a separate pattern, right? We added sub-agents, right? But we don't need a sub-agent in a very sequential flow, right? Where we just have step number 1, step number 2, step number 3. It's perfect. Okay. I mean, you don't need anything more. You don't need a sub-agent over there. It works just fine. Okay. Rohit says, fantastic session. Thank you so much, Rohit. Thank you, Vishnu. Okay. Then if you folks have no questions, we are right on time. Was there any other question? Some other question we asked earlier, but I did not address? Let me know. Please ask again so I don't miss it. Yeah, and you folks can add me on LinkedIn, folks. But in any case, just go and make sure you subscribe to this big academy over there, and you'll see all the things that we're doing, right? You don't miss any of the future. There's many sessions we have planned. Okay, almost every week or every other week we'll have a session. Okay. Okay, Big, really good, was worthwhile. Blessing sunshine. I'm in Scotland. Okay, AA, I'm glad you found it valuable, worth of your time. What benefit to define sub-agent? What benefit to define sub-agent? Okay, let me go back here. Sub-agents, right? So, what are sub-agents? And oh, I don't have a slide on this. Okay. Okay. So the benefit of sub-agents, number 1, is that they have their own context windows and their own traces. So debugging them is easy. Because they have their own specific context windows, when the context windows becomes really big, performance drops. The chances of performance dropping for a sub-agent is lower. Okay? So you can think of it as a very focused specialist with very limited, narrow, focused context, right? So sub-agents, ideally, if you have a system, where you need multiple sub-agents and you have a lot of data being passed around, right? Sub-agent with multiple specialized experts should work better, should give you better results. They should be easier to debug also. It also is a matter of permissions that, one single agent having 20 different permissions or 20 different, let's say, sources, right? Connectors, and that's complex. But yeah, you can have specific sub-agents only having specific access, right? So it makes a lot of sense in many ways, really. You can have parallelism again. Sub-agents can run in parallel, right? So it also speeds things up. So this is really a very valuable idea, really. It helps with many ideas. Okay, let's see. It's Codex 2 different from Claude Code? Just a broader thought. It is not very different, I would say. I think Claude Code was the first. Codex and the others are following. In fact, Codex, anti-gravity, Claude Code, the skills thing, right? The skill files and the skill paradigm, all of them, it is interchangeable. You can use the skill files you take from Claude Code, you can use them in Codex, you can use them in anti-gravity, right? So they're all really very similar at this point, but I like Claude Code, really. It's super simple. It gets things really well. That's why I prefer Claude Code. Anyone else? LinkedIn invite sent. Okay. All right. I'm glad to see you folks have found this session valuable. Let me see if there's no other question, we'll stop. It's quite late for many folks where you are. Let's see. Yeah, I think there's no other question. All of them are done. Then, if that is the case, thank you all, folks, for joining. I'm happy to hear this was useful. Feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Feel free to give a shout out on LinkedIn or tell people about this session you attended and learning. But please make sure to keep doing something, keep learning, right? This thing I showed you, keep using Claude Code, keep leveling up where you need to breach into the next level, right? So keep doing this, folks, okay? And that's all from my side. Have a good rest of the evening. And yes, thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, folks. Bye.